Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Their Story Matters right here in selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Ronald Hunter. We're going to be talking about a subject that we're really horrible to talk about, but it needs to be spoken about, child prostitution. And we're going to be talking about what inspired him to write his book, Angel Finally Found His Wings, a true story of finding trust, hope, faith, and the power of love. He was a part of the Oprah Winfrey Show in 2000, Men Who Survived Sexual Abuse, a television episode. The link is here on the show page. Please look at that. And Ron was so inspired to write, because of this, to write his memoir. 12 long years later, the book has been published, and Ron has been featured in The Guardian and in the New York Daily News, and of course in many podcasts. People are shocked when he tells them that he was the youngest of 22 children. My goodness, poor mother, but only had one small part of his life. His dad died when he was 6 years old. His mum soon went into a mental institution due to severe schizophrenia. I can never say that word, sorry. And he went into an orphanage. And after several years, she was released, and he went back to live with her. But she gave me to the neighborhood Boy Scout leader. Oh dear. Typically, he was forced into the 1970s child prostitution sex trade in New York City by continuously blackmailing him. If caught, he promised to have his mother sent back to the mental institution. 5 long years later, he escaped his control and started a new life. He no longer sees himself as a victim, excellent, but a survivor, more importantly, as an advocate to help others. We're going to be talking about the book and the inspiration around the book, about the subject. But as I said, it's very, very sad that I even have to do shows on this. I remember back in 2017 getting statistics on doing some shows on the sex trade and prostitution. And at that time, it was $152 billion a year trade. Now, if that is not a sickness, if that isn't a pandemic of some kind, then I don't know what is. I wouldn't know what the number is today worldwide. But the fact that there is still child prostitution and people go for children is a sickness in itself. And so many times I hear the thing of blackmailing or intimidating and making the child feel that they have to do it, because if they don't, someone else is going to pay the price. So thank you for surviving it and looking at yourself as a survivor and a thriver and not a victim. But I imagine that there was quite a long period there that being a victim was a state of being that you were in. Welcome to the show, Ron.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you having me on today and giving me the opportunity to talk about Angel Finally Found His Wings, which is my memoir. I feel that I need to be an advocate. And as you said, it began with the show, the Oprah Winfrey Show, 200 Men. It was in that room that I felt the pain that many of the guests in the audience were dealing with. Some of them had their spouses, and they were able to share how it affected their relationships down the line, not only with each other, but with their children as well. And I was sitting in my chair thinking, I have a wonderful life. I have a relationship. I have an open relationship with my spouse who knows everything about my past and is the utmost supporter of me and my mental health, emotional health, and my physical health. And I've achieved all those things that I thought I'd never have, which is finding that hope, the trust, physical, sexual, normal intimacy, and not seeing myself as a victim. I don't like that. I'm not a victim. I was victimized.
Yes.
And I learned to survive that through a lot of help from a lot of wonderful people who passed through my life. But also, I found that I needed to do more than just survive it. I wanted to live my life fully. And I am blessed to have that with my spouse, Scott.
attitude is huge, right? You know, there are so many people that will be the victim to the day they die because they not only got all over it, but the attitude is, you know, I'm victimized. And nobody asks to be victimized. But how we take that victimization and what we do with it, what do we learn from it, in that discovery of self, how your strength, your courage, your abilities, very often your calling, it comes out of it if you're willing to take the journey. And we can choose to be the victims forevermore, or we can choose to rise above and discover who we really are, despite what happened to us, or even because
Absolutely.
of what happened to us.
Yes, absolutely. And that was the part I had to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I had to first go through the self-loathing, the blaming,
Mm-hmm.
the shame, the anger, not so much with the person who did it, because that's expected, but
Yes.
with myself for not being strong enough to fight
Yeah.
back.
Yeah.
Well, at 11, 12, 13 years old,
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
you're put in
Yeah.
your place quite often when you raise your voice 1 second, you know, or 1 decibel. But I had to travel through that journey. And it was a lot of work, some starts and stops,
Mm-hmm.
some backups. But the biggest thing I had going for me, and I think why I was able to continue to move forward, was because I had wonderful people
Yeah.
who came in and through my life that made me feel worthy, loved, deserving, helped me to understand my no part in my responsibility for what happened to me.
Exactly. I
And
think
just
that's the big one, isn't it? It's that it isn't your fault. You didn't ask for it.
right.
And, you know, very often, I mean, I was a rape victim at 14. And yes, it does change your perspective on relationships, your trust, and you know, do people really value you? And, you know, I'm brought up in the 70s, for goodness sake, where, you know, where, you know, free love and free everything else. So, you know, it was a totally different mindset around kind of sex or anything else. But I think, you know, getting back to that attitude of being the victim or not, or choosing not to be, but also wanting to actually understand we are worthy. We
Yes.
are more than what happened to us, and that the blame is on the person that victimized us, not on the victim themselves. Could we have done anything about it? Hindsight is always 2020, right? But when you're a
Yes.
child and you're being victimized, and especially when they're blackmailing you, your mother will go back.
Yeah.
You know, it's that intimidation, and you feel powerless. You know, you're so fearful, but it's to get to that point where you take your power back and to become fearless. But there's always that along the way where little triggers happen or little things happen where it brings it back up. But it's to get to a stage where you can look at it and go, oh, hello, haven't seen you in a while. You know you're not wanted. You can go and not
Correct.
get caught up in it, right? And then you
Right.
know you've journeyed forward is when those triggers come up and you can say, you don't have any hold over me anymore.
Right. You have no place in my head. And I always
Yeah.
say, if you're not paying rent, you can't occupy space in my head.
And the rent is high.
The rent is extremely high because the pitfalls are extremely low.
Yes,
And I
exactly.
don't know if I could ever come back from it again.
Right.
But that's why I have to make sure I take care of me first.
Right.
And I'm in a good place. Because one of the things I want to say is we're not broken.
No.
We're tarnished. We're not soiled. And, you know, we really have to understand that it's not your fault.
Right.
It's my fault.
Mm-hmm.
And once you can get to that, then it's the people you surround yourself with.
Yes.
And allowing yourself to I had to deal with the fact that I needed to know that the people who did what they did to me and participated in that violation were not the people who are coming through my life
Yes.
now.
Yeah.
And I having that ability to do that and identify the differences in people, and I learned to trust. And in that trust, my faith grew even more than it did, which got me through the problem.
Yes.
I had hope, and I gained all the insight I need. Well, not all, but the insight I needed to move forward and to begin to heal.
Yeah.
And that's what I focus on. That I can't focus on the things that happened to me because I had no control over that.
Exactly.
Focus on what I have control over. And I love that saying, focus on what you have control over
Mm,
and not the things you can't do anything about,
exactly.
because it's going to
Exactly.
happen or not. So yeah, I love what you said, as well.
It must have taken a great deal of courage, though, to be on an Oprah show. But there's always that ridicule. There's always that judgment. I remember saying to somebody saying, well, you must have asked for it, right? Nobody asks for it. It's that it's it, it's somebody else's perspective. Well, you dressed in a miniskirt, or you looked like this. No, that is your issue. It's not mine. You've just
Right.
imposed it right on us. But to actually be on an Oprah show where millions of people are going to watch it, and
Absolutely.
maybe many people didn't know your story beforehand, and there you are, and to be able to own it again without shame,
That's the big
right?
thing.
Without shame, without any personal judgment, with your own empowerment of who you are today, that does take a lot of courage.
Yeah. Um, and that courage can come as long as you have people in your life
Hmm.
who you have shared it with and make you understand you don't need to be ashamed of what
Hmm.
happened to you. It wasn't something you chose to do, and that's a different story. Okay.
Yes.
But as a child, you didn't have that ability to make those decisions.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's a tough road to travel.
Yeah.
I had my pitfalls when I had that self-doubt leak back into my head. I ended up using self-medicating
Hmm.
means to take my pain away, also to suppress my anger and my
Hmm.
rage that I had. And I need to be aware of that too. To this
Yeah.
day, I
Yes.
have to focus on that because it took me down to alcoholism,
Hmm.
um, and drug abuse,
Hmm.
because those were the things that I could trust in to do what I needed them to do, was to help me escape the pain that I was dealing with in my head.
Yeah.
And then came the amazing support and love for people who came into my life after the fact that walked me down that path to healing.
Did Was there ever any accountability?
Not for me directly,
No,
but
for the culprit, for the
no, that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
But it wasn't, the accountability did happen, but it wasn't for me. And this is a
Mm,
sore point for me in my life. Not that I didn't get it directly for my uh, what he did to me,
mhm,
but it hurts me that he went on after I was able to escape, run, and he continued to do these things to other young boys in other states.
mm.
And the last state that he finally was captured and held accountable, and I am happy to say he received life sentences for the number of boys he had victimized, and he's dead. He's died in prison.
Where he
This
should
past,
have. Yeah.
not this December, a year December ago.
But you weren't kind of on the list of the victims then.
I was not. I in the research for my book, my
Hmm.
spouse was, Scott is just, I'm blessed.
Hmm.
He's a gift for me from
Hmm.
God. He researched everything from all the information that I provided, the places, the dates, and he tracked down Charlie. His name is Charlie Acevedo, who was my um, uh, victimizer,
Hmm.
the person who controlled and abused me. Anyway, he was an assistant Boy Scout, a known assistant, a Boy Scout leader, and he used that along with the other jobs that he had, say jobs, but as a volunteer to with the Boy Scouts, the baseball, the
Mm.
basketball league,
Mm.
the trip guy who took us on places in the neighborhood,
Right.
and that's where he got his credibility from, you know, from the neighborhood parents that in that area. So it was a safe bet, and that's how he presented himself. But the reason once I found out who he was, I immediately called where he was and what he was arrested for. I immediately called the assistant DA who was prosecuting him. I tracked that down and I told her who I was
Mm-hmm.
and what relationship he had to me and what he did to me.
Mm-hmm.
And she was absolutely devastated.
Mm-hmm.
And she had to apologize to me. And she said, unfortunately, the statute of limitation has expired.
Mm.
And it was in New York, and we are Florida.
Right.
She
Yes.
said, however, with the information you have given me, I am totally committed to make sure he never sees the light of day ever
Good.
again and to harm another child. And that was good for me. And I told her if you need me to come there, I would talk. And
Mm.
that's it, really. And
And
we
then
went
they're
to,
not very forgiving in jail of,
no,
child
they are not.
abusers. So
No, they are not. Yeah, it's
karma
the
goes
worst
around.
crime. Yeah, it's the worst crime you can
Yeah.
commit.
Mm.
Short eyes is what they call it,
Mm.
So,
Yeah. So, but I hear this over again, um, religious leaders, sports leaders of people. I mean, this is candy land for them, right?
absolutely.
And I say that to the people, did you go and tell anyone? And it would be nobody wanted to know or nobody believed me. What was
Exactly.
it for you?
Uh, the shame, the fact that I remember as a young boy, uh, I think my brothers and older brothers suspected and had heard little things about me. And I'm talking about 6 years old,
Mm,
uh, that I may be doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And they cuffed me up, cornered me, cuffed me up, and said, "Don't you ever, that's not appropriate. Um, that is wrong. You don't do that. You don't bring shame to our family. I never want to hear anything like that again." Yeah. And so I remembered that. So I knew
mm.
I couldn't go to them and tell them.
Yes, yes,
And so they had just one of my brothers had just come from Vietnam, which is part of the story in there.
right.
And he was still there, and he could have he would have killed him. And
Yeah,
then I would have had to deal with the guilt of my brother doing what he did and him being
going
in
to
jail.
jail.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So I didn't. I thought of all those things, and I said, "I'll just take it. I can keep it here, and nobody has to know." And he also blackmailed me with threats, to put my mom back
Mm,
into the institution because she was not well. We never should have been released back to
right.
her.
And of
My
course, you
sister,
couldn't tell her either, right?
no,
No.
and I would never. My
Mm,
mom was,
hmm
God. Well, you can see my story.
hmm
And yeah, I mean, even in the documentation that I was able to get for because of Freedom of Information Act, it's documented that my sister, who she was living with and helped her get the apartment for us to come home, said she is not ready to have them. They need to stay there
mm,
because she is not well, and they didn't pay attention to that. So they took us from a wonderful, safe place. We were with Abbott House, which is a orphanage in Irvington, New York. We went from there, and I lived in a group home. And the people who take care of me, like my parents, and I still refer to them as that, are Chris and Steve Ryman. They were the
mm.
most amazing people in my life. So, and I listened to I took their leads on
Yeah.
who to be and what to be, and I carried that.
Behind me you see a book called Our Forgotten Children. It's an anthology that I put together, and people say, why
Oh,
did I do it? And it's like through the 12 years of doing this and hearing the horrific stories, one of the things we're doing is we're letting our children down. We're not listening, we're not caring, we're not educating, we're not preparing them, and we're not supporting them, and we're not supporting families. And, we tear children away and put them in foster homes and one beautiful foster mother, she only takes boys, the amount of love that she gives them. And she says, like, one child she had, he was 16, never ever been hugged in his life,
yeah.
and it's just horrible to see it. So it's 15 chapters on different perspectives, and it's book one in the series. And, I was compelled to put it together because if we're not aware, how do we care?
That's right.
And this
Very.
is what we need to understand, that this happened to you many years ago, but it's happening to a child out there right now
Right now.
that feels
Absolutely.
that they don't have a voice, no one cares, they're just a statistic, or if they get taken away and put somewhere else, and very often the safe house they get put in is the place where they get victimized. And so,
Absolutely. Once
yeah,
again.
yeah. And it's so
Absolutely.
sad to see this, and it's so sad to see that in this day and age, with the technology and the advances that we have, that we've actually gone backwards in support of our children.
Mm.
And back to what I said before, if we don't treat sexual deviancy as a disease, we're never
Mhm.
going to get to the crutch of it. For someone to want to have sex with a child, there is something wrong with that
Something is wrong.
person. Why are we not focusing in on that? Why are we not addressing it? And it isn't. It's something that's brushed under the carpet. And so many more children just then end up being the victim of it. And not so many come out as lucky as you have because you had the support and because you were willing to go through it.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the sad part. And that's why I wanted to do everything. It's not about me anymore. I'll share
Mm.
my story and I'll tell my story and give any insight I can to help others. But I need to advocate about this
Yes.
so that
Yes.
I can be there and give others who may have suffered long ago or maybe
Mm.
now
Yeah.
uh, the hope and the belief and a actual person who's gone through it and is showing you, wow, they have everything that I would like to have, but I thought I'd never have it,
Yeah.
you know? Uh, and I hate to say this word, but the normal life of,
Right.
of loving, of caring, of having people in your life, and not the one where I think my value is a piece of meat. My
Yes.
value, what I can do for you and how much I'll charge you for it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I thought of myself for the longest time,
Yeah.
unworthy, undeserving of
Yeah.
anything. And I was transactional,
Mm.
because that was what I was taught. And that
Exactly.
was
That's all you knew, and that's
that's
all you felt
exactly
worthy of. And again, from uh, people I've interviewed through the years, there is that is all I am worth until somebody, and I've heard it before, go through the drugs, go through the alcohol, go even through the self-abuse until,
Mhm.
yeah, I call it the cosmic nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or 2x4. And along the one, you get the nudge and you get the wink, wink, and then the 2x4, where something
Correct.
happens where you kind of the bottom out and you look at your life. And then maybe at that moment, there is somebody there that even if they've been there before, you wouldn't have heard them, but there's somebody there at that time that
Yes.
is that voice or are those ears that care, and that is then helping you on your way. Was there somebody in particular for you?
Yeah. Even during the abuse in the book, I don't know if you remember him, James, in the
I
book.
haven't read the book. I'm sorry,
Oh,
love, I
okay.
don't have it. So,
That's okay. I'm sorry. Anyway, in the book, the person who helped me escape the situation I was in, the street hustling, um, he changed my life around.
mhm.
He did. He took me from there. He um, helped me begin the process of healing because he was the first male who wanted to help me
Mm,
to move me where he felt I should have been and not on the streets.
you're right.
Which, and he asked me all the questions, and I remember in the car when he was going to finally reveal who he was, his full name, his real name, and I looked at him after he was saying, "All I want to do is help, trust me."
Mm.
And I'm thinking, finally, I just turned to him with tears running down my eyes because I had a lot of rage in me coming out,
Yes. Yes.
and I just blurted out, "What do you want from me?"
Mm,
Because I knew they always want something.
yes, exactly.
And all he said is, "I want to help. And if you would trust me, I can prove that to you."
Mm,
And I broke down and I fell in his arms and he held me and I cried. And from that day, my life changed.
yeah.
The process of me escaping what I was in, because now we had to go into a whole
Yeah.
nother uh, thinking to get me off, get me
Mm,
out, get me
mm,
away from
yeah. But because, I
that.
mean, people don't understand you can't just walk away from it.
No, you can't.
Right. You've got a John, right?
Yeah,
And that John
absolutely.
there is he's making money
And a
off
violent,
you. Yeah, and
and
they're
a violent
violent
one,
and
yeah,
controlling. And yeah, and it's not an easy life to walk away from.
and he followed through on all the things he said to expose me to all my friends in the neighborhood, to tell everybody and anybody that he threw me out because he discovered that I wasn't who I said I was, and I was selling myself on the street, and he couldn't believe it when he found out, and he acted as if he had never had any knowledge of it. Meanwhile, he's
Right.
the whole reason for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a lot because he had involved me. He passed himself off as Charlie did as my dad.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah,
Mm,
he passed himself off that way so that we could have access as a father son to the Garrity Knights football program that I became a part of,
mm,
to the Boy Scouts where he enlisted me in. They knew who he was, but he went further with that down the line to any other things, to getting to my schooling.
Wow.
He was known as, and I refuse to call him dad or anything like that.
Mm.
I referred to him, and I always remember this, and that's how I got the name Pops. Because if you remember West Side Story, the guy who owned the soda
Yeah.
fountain thing,
Yeah.
everybody called him Pops. And I
Hmm.
said, I can do that, you know? So
Mm.
that's what I'll call him, Pops, Pops. So that's what people knew about. But yeah, he really manipulated everyone whose path we crossed.
Hmm.
And he got the benefit of the doubt from the stories he told, the sympathies and the support.
Because they're good at it,
Very,
right?
very,
You know,
yes.
again, it's like a amount of religious people that have abused their position, and people, saying that they even convinced the parents that they were just looking out for the kid, that, the kid's telling tales, let me take him under my wing, and I'll guide him forward. And in the meantime, and the parents happily handing over because thinking, I can trust the clergy, or I can trust the teacher, or I can trust the coach. And then
Exactly.
we see it over and over again of that manipulation. And it's like, folks, don't just blindly like pay attention. Pay
Pay
attention
attention.
to your child, and pay attention to that person that you are allowing your child to be near.
Yeah. Yeah. And he used one of the most important institutions in a child's development growing up for boys was the
Yes.
Boy Scouts of America.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that gave him instant credibility
Yeah.
and a safety uh, presence in the
Hmm.
life of a kid. And my mother was desperate to, in her illness, to have somebody
Be a
caring for me,
father figure.
looking out for me. Yes,
Right.
exactly, and
Yes.
keep me safe because
Hmm.
she could. Um,
Exactly.
and
Did she
he
ever know?
brought that.
Did she ever find out?
Never knew, never knew. She was so appreciative and thankful for the attention and the care and the guidance he was giving me.
Hmm.
um, and he manipulated her. And in the in the end, my mom had him become my godfather through the church of confirmation. That's how much he wanted to
Yeah.
so much in my life. And also, she threw one of my sisters out who suspected something wasn't right, and she challenged him on in front of
Mm.
my mom and saying, "There's something not right about you. I know there's something. This isn't good. I mean, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to get
Yeah.
it." And my mom literally became enraged with my sister Mary and threw her out the house. And her schizophrenia was just,
Yeah.
it was so high, it was so frightening and very painful for me to observe my mom going through those
Right. And of course,
episodes.
these people are so charming. They're worms. They just worm their way into every situation, and they're charismatic, and look like butter, melt in
Oh
their
yeah,
mouth, and
oh yeah.
and so they're really, really good at it. And that's why, you look at serial killers, and people think that they're, evil people, but very often they know the politicians, they know this, they know that, and all
Absolutely.
right, it's because they are charismatic that they can get away with what they're doing.
Right.
And, it's how do we teach our children to listen to the gut instinct when they feel something is wrong? And one of the things is we've got to give our children permission that
Permission.
if you
Exactly.
feel insecure with someone, that you have the right to say, no, I don't want to go there.
I think one of the things I feel if I'm when I'm speaking is that parents need to make sure that their children understand that they are supporting them no matter what they have to say to them. They
Yeah.
don't have to be afraid or ashamed to tell them something that is bothering them or they're unsure of
Yes.
or want answers or have a question about.
Mm.
Is it okay if so and so, whatever, if there's gave me a massage, you
Mm.
know? No, it's not. It shouldn't be. Or when
Yeah.
we slept over so and so's house, I slept in the bed with so and so.
Mm.
No, that's not,
Yeah.
but they
No,
need to put it in a way so that the child
it
isn't
doesn't make the child
draws back and
afraid.
says, I
Yeah.
shouldn't
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's one of the things. And the parent absolutely has to be involved with everything their child is doing outside that house.
Unfortunately, and today it makes it harder and harder, even though we've got the phone and everything else, and social media and everything else, is that somehow our children are moving further away from us. And
Mm,
we're seeing, which and everybody likes to blame the pandemic, I think it's society as a whole, we're seeing our kids grow up to become so disconnected from life, from
mm.
conscience, from responsibility, from connection in any form of way, that they'll gather together, perfect strangers, and go and stab someone to death for fun because they're
Yeah,
feeling so numb. And what
right.
does that say about us as a society? Not blame the child,
Mm,
because the child is just expressing their numbness in many ways. They're
mhm.
trying to feel something and they're
Mhm.
going to absolute desperate measures. And it's like we have let our children down. And there was a program that I used to do right at preschool, and I was yelled at by a mum for having this. I had a sex educator come in to teach 2, 3, and 4 year olds. Before they went to a kindergarten, so up to 5 years old, what their body is. This is a vagina. This is a penis. Nobody's allowed to touch that. Somebody does, you tell mommy and daddy, that permission, and did it in a way that it made the child feel, I own my own body. It's
Ownership of it, yeah.
okay. And so, one mother was all ballistic on me. And then once the program had been done, it was like, thank you, thank you. We wouldn't know how to approach this. And so
Mhm.
they had her back every year after that. And it's sad that we have to do it. But at the same time, we need to teach our children from a very young age. Their body is their body. And they have the right to say who touches and who doesn't. And if we don't teach that to them right from the word go, and you've got to be compliant. I'm in control. Um, one mum I used to know, I brought you into the world, I can take you
Take
out.
you
And it's
out, yeah.
scary. It's,
That
if we're going to raise our children in that way, then, there is a trust factor that we need to have. And we've got to realize we're custodians of our children. We do not own them. We're here to guide them, nurture them, inspire them, and show them a path for them to walk and give them the right tools. And it's just absolutely disgraceful what we do with our children today. And this has been going on forever, right? It's
yes, yes.
um but it's in this day and age, we have no excuse. We know. And so therefore there should be more in place for a child to go somewhere to say, this is happening to me, help me. Or that, parents do listen, teachers listen. Were you going to school at this time?
I was until I had to make money, and then the hours of making money and took was at the same time during my schooling hours.
Mm.
So it became I'd hit school because back then we had truant officers
Hmm.
who would say he's missed school for let me go visit the house and see what's going on. So he was smart enough to know how many days I could not go to school, work the streets, work the clients, and then go back to it before uh, uh,
Yeah, before bells would ring.
bells
Hmm.
would ring, yeah,
Hmm.
and so I did that. Eventually, when I graduated middle school,
Hmm.
eighth grade, to go to ninth grade, that was a high school. I started in there, and then I didn't go for the rest of the year. So
Mm.
I missed a whole year, besides all the other parts of the year that I missed from the eighth grade, um, of not going to school. So my education pretty much stopped, except for my street education.
You're right, exactly. So later on in life, when you've come out of this and you're forming a new path for yourself, did that affect any career that you went in, or did your street smarts actually kind of help you in a way in whatever field you went into?
Well, I've always had a toughness. There were things that did stop me. I've always loved singing and
Hmm.
performing.
Hmm.
And I did sing. As a matter of fact, I was the first student in my middle school when we were auditioning for the high schools.
Hmm.
In New York, there was a school called Music and Art High School.
Hmm.
It was strictly a school focused on the arts. And I decided I wanted to audition for voice for
Hmm.
that school. And I was the first student of the school who ever was accepted
Hmm.
a student to be at the School of Music and Art for voice. There's a whole thing that goes with that and how it came about, but unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Charlie, stop that.
Yes, exactly.
And he did that throughout my life, that the periods he
Mm,
had control over me, where I
yeah,
can go. Football, if there was a possibility of getting maybe a scholarship to go away to
yeah.
military academy school, he nixed that idea too.
Hmm.
It was like, no, he's not going away, because if I go away, he
Yes.
loses control.
He loses
I'm
his income. Yeah.
I'm his life existence. I'm
Yeah.
what gives him the ability to do and act and present himself the way he does.
I mean,
So
surely, I mean, the Johns, must have kind of recognized you from somewhere. I mean, did you ever, have a John that you knew from the neighborhood, or did he have you work in areas that were totally different to where you lived?
yeah, I worked. I lived in Brooklyn, New York, in the Bushwick area at the time when this was happening on Central Avenue. I actually lived on 88 Central Avenue on the corner of Jefferson, and so the people there, most of us didn't go very far from those neighborhoods.
Hmm.
And if they did, they really didn't go to where I was working. I was put on
Hmm.
the street to work. Um, what was I going to say? It was something I was going to say on. Um,
Anybody
the,
recognizing you?
the recognize, yes. It didn't come until later. Nobody that I knew, I did by feet almost bump into my brother Danny
Mm.
while he was on the same street, 42nd Street. He and one of the friends he had from the neighborhood, from our street, Tom, they were going to see a movie on 42nd Street. And I was standing under my normal place, and people, crowds are coming, and I'm turning, I'm looking. And then I turn, and there he is. He and Tom are talking which movie they're going to go to. And I went, oh, crap. And I ducked down and I snuck away, and I was like panicking. My heart,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh my God, he would kill me. What am I doing here? So that was one attempt that I avoided that scarily. But I was on later on, about 18 and 19, I was on the subway, and I got on a train. And when I got on a train, I turned to sit down. And when I did that, I saw one of my clients.
Hmm.
And he looked at me, I looked at him, and he kept looking at me. And I was trying just to hold my composure in, and not feel like he was intimidating me or I was intimidated by the
Yeah.
whole. But he looked at me, and then he just slightly just gave it that nod.
Hmm.
That,
I see
and
you. Yes.
I
Right.
see you, you see me.
Mm-hmm.
No words were exchanged. We never got close to each other. And that was it. And that bothered me a lot, which stopped me from going into performing and being on stages, especially in that area,
Right.
because I
Exactly.
didn't want to go out and look on a stage and see
See,
somebody.
yeah,
And that would
exactly.
completely devastate me. So that played a lot in not pursuing my theater and arts and music career.
What field
I
did you follow?
excuse me.
What field did you follow?
Ultimately, I
Hmm.
went into the United States military,
Hmm.
Army,
Hmm.
um, and that took me away. And that was
Yes.
actually the Army is what really saved my
Hmm.
life to where I am today. It gave me a place to belong, a place that gave me a sense of self,
Hmm.
self esteem. It gave me a family, a built
Hmm.
in family, and it helped guide me until I could understand how to do it for myself. And it
Right.
turned me into a leader. And I always say I was a good leader because I was a great follower. I
Mm.
was a great support for the people who were in charge, and I absorbed their knowledge and I absorbed their behaviors, the positive ones, and that helped me become a good leader.
Right.
So yeah, the Army is responsible for all the things, and the courage. It gave me courage. I was always a tough guy, but I was always not one to step out,
Hmm.
but I would fill the void. And
Yeah.
I, in the military, if there was a hole that needed to be filled, I'd fill it.
Right.
Whether it was leadership or whatever it was, if it needed to be, I would fill it. So that gave me the the life and uh,
With the
the
kind of the permission and the redirect for
yeah,
you to grow,
to grow and to
for
be.
you to on your terms.
I had a
Mm.
lot to learn. I had a
Mm.
lot to be myself. I didn't know how to be myself because I was controlled.
Right. Exactly.
And so I was told what to do. Told so in a good part, the military did meet that part,
Yes.
but it did it in the right direction for the right reasons for the good,
Hmm.
and that gave me the ability to grow from there. And then from there, when I retired from the U.S. Army, I ended up serving with American Airlines as a flight attendant. And that helped me travel the world and
Mm.
see things and meet people. And the military experience helped me to excel in the airline flight attendant
The
field.
discipline side of it, the leadership
Discipline,
side of it, and also
absolutely.
troubleshooting side of it. Yeah. Mm,
Absolutely, 100%.
mm,
So I saw how they work together. And the one thing I've always been is I love people. And I used to say, why does everybody put a negative connotation to people pleaser?
I know.
If you put
Yes.
it
Well,
that
it's
way,
people
yeah,
pleasing
uh,
at your expense, but people pleasing for your pleasure is a total different thing.
that's totally
Right.
different. I tried to
Yes.
make them understand. Do you understand when
Hmm.
I see somebody smiling or feeling better or calm down from
Hmm.
a bad situation that I had something to do
Yeah.
with and change the direction of their day, their hour,
Hmm.
their flight? That made me feel wonderful, you know,
Exactly.
and it made them feel wonderful, and
Right.
that's why I felt it.
Yes.
And that's
Good
what I was, and that's
vibrations.
why I
Yeah.
excel, in that.
Well, where did you meet your husband, Todd?
Scott, Scott,
Scott, sorry.
Scott. We met in San Francisco when I was. He'd been working there about a year before I came. We met in September 9th of 1999, and that's
Hmm.
the uh, time in San Francisco at a club. It's a happy hour bar anyway. And we've been together ever since. Yeah, and I was in San Francisco myself because it was the place that I had requested to go upon graduation.
Mm.
Everybody laughed at me and said, "Oh, that place has been closed. You have to be too senior to get there." I said, "Well, I'll never know unless I ask for it."
Right.
And it
Right.
opened up for me. And lo
More
and
ways than
behold,
one.
you know, what happened with that? So, uh,
Yes. And having somebody that doesn't judge your past, but instead basically holds you, holds
oh,
space for you,
in
right?
every way.
Those arms for you. And just sometimes it's not the words, it's just, I'm there for you, right? And that's so
Amazing.
healing because they see who you are now and not, who you were, not, and even who you were was not who you are. Right.
Right,
So
right.
it's that person that just like, I hold nothing against that poor child. I'm here to nurture the inner child. And so many people don't understand that if we have a wounded inner child, that inner child is constantly looking for love and attention or approval or justification or something along the line. And when
Wow.
you meet that person that sees that inner child, I'm there to hug that inner child. It becomes so healing. And so when you have somebody that's supportive, really your wings can expand.
That's exactly right. 100%. And that's how Angel finally found his wings came about. It
Mm-hmm.
was Scott who looked at me when we were at a Winona Judd concert,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the featured performers was Christina McBride. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, excuse me, Martina McBride.
Right.
And one of her songs is called Angel with a Broken Wing.
Mm-hmm.
And when she started singing, she led off by talking about where it come from, the idea of it. And then we were looking at, wow, that's powerful. And then she started to sing. And when she sang that chorus, we looked at each other and he looked at me and says, we're going to use some of that for the name of your book.
Mm-hmm.
Angel finally found his wings. And
Yes.
that's how we got it. And the reason we were able to do that was because my street name was Angel.
It's a double entendre there.
Yes,
So yes,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I was this angel with devil's horns, kind of like the halo with the horns on it. But I never went the horn way. I went the halo way.
Right.
I chose that.
Yeah,
It was my choice.
exactly. And that is it. We can't choose what happens to us, but we can choose what we do with it. And
That's
a
exactly
lot of the time when people come out of some form of trauma and especially abuse, you've got to get to the thing is that I didn't ask for this. Surely, I don't need to be punished for it. Who is there to hear me and understand? And it is that journey. And whoever's supportive on the outside, it is really you supporting yourself from the inside. And it does require participation. It does require
yes.
work. It does require
Right.
you being open to go through the process. And you talked about flaws before. I love the word flawsome. Every single one of us is flawsome. We're
Yes.
a bowl that's been broken. But when we put ourselves back together with love, we become unbreakable.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's
And then
right.
we can
And
fill
I
that
healed
bowl with
even
self-love.
stronger. Right.
Absolutely. And it's to
Mhm.
understand that from those flaws, from those broken parts of us, we can put ourselves back together in a way that's so much stronger, meaningful, and more purposeful. Because in a way, that is what life's journey is about. And some
Absolutely.
people's journeys are much more horrific than others. And some people sail through it. Maybe they've had bad past lives and this is their reward this lifetime. But,
How all those things go through your head.
all
I
of
must
those
have
things.
earned this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
What
the
kind of a
thing,
person was I before?
yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
maybe you just signed up to have this experience to know what it's like, so you know empathy and understanding.
Oh
You
boy.
couldn't write this book
No.
and basically re-expose yourself, even on Oprah, re-expose yourself to it without feeling confident in the fact that it needs to be told, not just because it's your story, it's because it's so many other people's story. And we need to pay attention to that
That's
story.
exactly right. And that's my purpose in having written Angel Finally Found His Wings is to help those who suffer or have suffered through it and are still suffering if they
Yeah,
haven't dealt with it and faced it and claimed ownership of it.
right.
Uh, that's what I'm here to do,
Mm,
hopefully, to show them that it can be done and that it's not easy. It's not
no.
easy. I had a lot of therapy and it helps. But to gain that, it's my story.
Hmm.
I'm owning it now. It can't hurt me because I know my story and I'm not going to hurt myself anymore. I'm going to
Exactly.
tell the truth of my life, what happened, and claim it and move forward. And I'm not going to allow the things that happen also let me or have me to label other people like
Mm.
Charlie.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
not going to get that. A lot of people do that. Oh, you're like so and so, and they say, "Why are you making him pay, punishing him for something the ex did?" People,
Exactly.
I don't do. I've
Yeah.
made that a point of my life. You can't. You have to have faith and trust, and you have to define yourself. It's important you define who you are, not let somebody else define you. And that's
Absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
Only you know who you are.
And shame. There's no shame in
No,
what
no
happened.
shame, no blame.
No, no. So, and I
Yeah.
had to get there though.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
had to trust the people um, that came into my life, to believe them. And I always say, when people try and share some information about a certain person's personality or character or whatever, I listen to what they're saying and I wonder, okay, maybe there's something between the two of you, personalities,
Mm.
strong egos, whatever. But I'm going to give that in my mind. I'm thinking, well, I understand it. That's good information, but I'm going to give them, and I'm saying this to myself, the benefit of the doubt. And they're going to have to prove me wrong that they're not worthy of my trust in my life.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm strong enough to not be
Yes.
devastated by the deception
Right. Right.
that they do. I mean, when I find out, or should I find out, that they are everything these people said, you
Hmm.
know? So I
The benefit
have
of the doubt, which I think
the
is,
benefit of the doubt.
because I mean that person's in transition, so they may not be coming across in the way that they want to. They haven't
Mhm.
discovered themselves yet. I was being interviewed yesterday, and somebody asked me that, people who come on and share their trauma, share their pain, aren't they reliving it every time? How can they share their story? And I said, no, they've done the work where they can talk about it because they are no longer in pain.
Right.
It is something that they're looking at as a chapter or a few chapters in their book, but there are other chapters that have been written since. So you
Right.
can look at it removed from the pain, the shame, the blame, or
Oh, yeah.
anything else that wanted people to call about it, and talk about it from a way of your own self-empowerment, your own
Absolutely.
liberation. And
Yes.
and when people aren't ready to talk about it, like one of the other people on the show, and she said, there's something I can't talk about, I'm still in pain with, and I'm still working
Mhm.
through it. So don't ask people to talk about something when they're still in pain with it,
Right.
right?
Right.
Because it's still too painful for them to talk about. But when people have got to that, I can talk about this now because I know who I am, why I am, and why I'm
Right.
doing it. It is to share the story, to bring enlightenment as to what goes on. Because
Wow.
again, when we know, we start to care, right? And
Yes.
that's the important thing. We all need to care. Just because it hasn't happened to you doesn't mean you should stop caring. It means that we
No.
should pay attention as to the statistics of how many people it's happening to that you know in your life that you never knew it was happening to.
Absolutely. In my own
Absolutely.
family, I'm
Yeah.
hearing people who've read my story, who've opened up to me, people I didn't know who are sharing through your book. I've got a whole new outlook and whole
Yeah.
perspective on who I am, what happened to me, and what I need to do, I can do to live my life clean again. I can
Yes.
cleanse my soul, my
Mm.
feelings, my shame. It's not, it's just amazing. And that has inspired me to really pursue the advocacy for this, to
Yeah.
say, hey, and don't talk about something, as you said, not to talk about, and don't pressure anybody.
No.
Just talk about something. Let them share their story chapter by chapter as
Hmm.
they are ready to,
Yes.
and um, I just, the things you're saying hit home for me so much because it's exactly what I went through.
Hmm.
I had to go through the journey and the road of each of those steps to get.
Hmm.
But in telling my story, in telling it over and over and over, it has diminished its
Yes.
pain
Hold on you. Yeah.
hold on me.
Yeah.
Does it?
Yeah.
When I got the word that Charlie died, I said, "How do you feel about that?" I said, "I don't. He
Hmm.
has no power over me,
Right.
and I cannot afford to let him have any power over me
Yes. He's already
because
been there, done that. No
done
power
that, and
anymore.
I
Right.
he is banned from my feelings, my emotions, my he
Exactly.
is something that happened I can talk about and have no emotional connection to
Right.
whatsoever."
The waste has been disposed of, and
Absolutely, absolutely.
dues have been paid. And the thing I think that's very, very important for people to understand is that um why it's important to share these stories, because so many people are going through it and they've been shamed or blamed or fearful of speaking about it.
Mhm.
And when this happened to somebody who imposed himself on your family and somebody that the community trusted, but when it also happens from a family member,
Mm.
a father and a mother watches, right, and doesn't do anything about it, it's a double betrayal, right? And it's, you can
Wow.
understand the journey that it's going to take to get through that. We need to look at the courage, the strength, the abilities, the embracement of your own meaningful purpose, of your own soul, your own spirit, of where you are today and what it took to get there. But it's also a beacon of hope for other people that are on that journey, that it's okay to come out and say, this happened to me. It happened to me. I am not it. I'm in the
That's right.
process of becoming who I am on my journey of self-discovery, because I am not that anymore. And
That's
that
right.
beacon of hope that you can be this full-bodied person, heart, mind,
Mhm.
spirit, and soul, and love your life and not
Yes.
be scarred by it anymore.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. And one of the things I had to stop somebody, and when they're hearing my story and they have a story to share, the first thing they want to say, well, my story wasn't like yours. I didn't have the kind of life you have. To say, wait a minute, don't compare.
No, no
Your
compare, no
pain that you
compete.
went through is the
Yeah.
same. You were
Yes.
traumatized, you were hurt, you were
Yes.
deceived, all the same things that happened to me. The things that happened may be different, but
Yes.
the effect was the same. It
Trauma is
is
trauma.
how it affects you.
Yes. Yes.
And so don't compare my story and it to yours. We'll focus on yours,
Yeah.
and you're worthy, you're deserving of all the same things that I am,
Exactly.
and that I
And,
need.
I hate the word comparison and competition.
Yeah,
Competition is for competing in a game, and there
exactly.
is no comparison. We're all beautifully unique, right?
Yes,
And you can be inspired by someone. I want to do what they're doing. I would love to represent in a way that they are doing it. But it's not, I want to be like them. No, they're taken. It's up
that's
to
right.
you.
It's
It's up
already
to you
done.
to discover who you are. Self-discovery, the
Self
wisdom that
discovery.
lies within you because of what you've been through, and be willing to go on that journey of exploration and wonderment. I am so much more than what has happened to me. I am
Yes.
so much more, and that what has happened to me has given me this, that strength, courage, abilities, has shown me this that I can apply to my life, that has allowed me to stand up and be that, and be in that discovery of all that it's allowed you to be, right? And that forgiveness of self. What have you got to forgive?
Mhm.
You were a victim. You didn't
Right.
know anything better. Um, but you can forgive your ignorance.
Mhm.
You can forgive your lack of ability to stand up for yourself because you did not know what you knew now.
Right. And that's one of the things I've always carried with me. Maya Angelou, who said, "When you know better,
You
you
do
do
better.
better," and that is
Exactly.
one of the things I carry to this day. You
Yes.
know, I, I don't see how you could people when and it bothers me to even have to talk about, but people who've been victimized,
Mhm.
and then continue the victimization through them to somebody
I
else.
know this is mind
How
boggles, you know.
does that? I don't get that,
I
and
don't
I
get
don't
it
want to.
either. But it's people that
It's
actually don't
unacceptable.
see it that way. And it's like,
Right.
I don't
Right.
understand. You know the pain. You
Yes.
know the pain. How can you not see
How
it?
can you inflict
But
that on
because
another?
that is a
Yes.
pattern that they don't recognize as a pattern or a program, and they
Right.
don't realize they're in it,
Right.
right? To
And
them,
that's
it's
why it
different.
continues to propagate
Yeah. Yeah.
from generation to generation
Yes.
because one decides to take that path as
Yeah.
opposed to dealing with their own pain, their own hurt,
Yeah.
and healing and you know taking care of themselves.
Yes.
So that they can't deal with the pain. Well, let me put some of this on somebody else. Why do I have to carry it myself? Or why do I
Right.
have to feel it happened to me? They're no better than me. All
Yeah.
kinds of craziness, and
Yeah.
that's unacceptable to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. And that is that lack of self-worth, and it's caught up in an old pattern and programming, and you've got to recognize it.
yeah,
There's like form of addiction. You
but you have to
become
want to.
addicted to that pattern. You've got to want to.
You've got
I
to want
call it the sunny side of the street. You can't help anybody until they come out of the darkness and step onto the road
to.
of
Right.
light. Then you can help people along the way. And you don't walk their journey. You just give them the tools and the assistance and the encouragement that need on their journey.
Correct.
But
Right.
they've got to be wanting to come out of the dark. We can't pull them out. We can't go in there.
Right.
It's their free will. And
Right.
very often what is happening to these people is they're unaware that they're in a program or they're in a pattern. They're
Mm,
unaware that there is anything else out there or that it's wrong. And
right.
that very often could be because of the narrow, limited world they live in, or the denial of that it's wrong. That at some
Mhm.
point, the old
Absolutely.
cosmic two by four is going to come along and go, wake up.
Hmm. Absolutely. And it will. It will. But
Mm.
wow, this has been wonderful. I love the things you said. It was so much on how I've gotten to where I am today, the tools, the journey itself, and the desire and willingness to deal with the pain in order to heal it. I know what the wounds are now. I can treat those wounds. So,
Exactly.
and that's what I want to give to others. I want to give them a sense of hope by witnessing it, by hearing it, by seeing it, being a physical embodiment of the ability to heal and claim myself once again, ownership.
And then be that illuminating light for other people that are in that darkness.
Yes,
You've just got to be that light and shed that light like a street light,
yes, you
on
do.
that narrow pathway there that, suddenly they see that light and they go, that light is calling me and I can walk out of there. But again, it has to be, their choice. And that's the important thing. It has to be their choice. And again, though, sometimes they're unaware they have a choice. Did you know as a
Mm,
child you had a choice
yeah,
until you met that one person
mm,
that said you have a choice? And that's the
that was the
thing.
change.
You don't know in listening to this or somebody you come across that
Yeah,
your words or your action may be that pivoting of redirection they needed to show them they have a choice. So don't go, well, it's nothing to do with me. If you see somebody in trouble, you have no idea if just putting your arms around them, giving a hug, or
hmm,
just talking to them and looking in the eyes of I see you, how or what impact it can be on them at that time.
yeah.
We walk around with blinkers on. No, 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 it's not me. It's not me. We need to open up and pay attention to each other.
Right. And my talking about it, that's another thing is when I talk about my story, I speak about it in a way that I'm empowered by it. I'm
Yes.
empowered to tell my story because I'm showing that of all the ways they said I should be dead, I should be in
Mm,
jail, I should be strung out, it didn't happen that way. I chose a
exactly.
different path, the
Right.
one that's less spoken of,
Yeah.
that you can do this, but it takes a lot. And I understand that, and I did. But I see people when they're hearing me talk about it, it's almost like a light has lit up in them saying,
Hmm.
I never heard this side of it before.
Right.
I never thought about the possibility of this side of it before.
Yes.
But here it is right in front of me talking about this horrible existence.
Yeah.
And look at him. Look
Yeah.
at what he's doing, how he's doing it,
Right.
and the life he has. and the strength.
Yes.
And I had to claim that. I had to if I wanted to
Yes.
and
Yeah.
be of service somehow.
Somebody had power over you.
They did.
You decided to empower yourself.
Absolutely,
Right.
100%. You have to be not only wanting, you have to need to have that.
Yes.
It has to be a part of your needs to survive.
Yeah.
And then once you get to the survival, you then begin to live and you have a life.
And that life has so much more meaning and value because it has a
Yes,
different purpose, right? Do you
it
understand?
does. It
And like
does.
as you said, the book took 12 years to write, and it was written and came out when it needs to come out because you
It.
had to go through that process of writing it and some parts reliving it and some parts letting things go.
Mm-hmm.
Because it isn't just the sexual prowess of this man, of the what he did to you, but it was also your father dying, feeling that your brothers didn't give you support, your mother needing you and you feeling helpless to help her, the whole
Mm.
situation. So it's never just one thing, but that was the catalyst. That was the thing that kind of probably made you feel, this is all my lot in life and this is all I'm worth.
I literally said that one time.
Hmm.
I guess this is my life. And that's when I decide if this is my life, I don't want any of it to do with this. And that's when I tried my first suicide.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's when I said, this is not what I want. This is not who
No.
I want to be. And I'm not going to, obviously, I'm never going to get away from this. So I know how to control it and I'm going to claim myself.
Right.
That was the power I had was suicide.
Right.
Try, and I was very fortunate that I wasn't successful, but I was in a coma for,
Mm.
for the whole period. And that was the beginning of my fight back again.
Yes. The
That was,
catalyst, that
it
shift.
was, it
And that's
was.
sometimes where people don't understand that a certain shift. Now, I don't say to everybody go and try and commit
No, no,
suicide because
don't
you might
try
be
it.
successful. We
Let's
don't
do it
want that.
before that.
But
Yeah.
you never know when that pivot, that catalyst, that I've had enough and I'm not going to take it anymore.
That's
That,
exactly right.
and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, and it's just all we need sometimes is to shift you into a different thing of, I don't need to take this anymore.
No, that's exactly right.
Right?
I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to
Yeah.
take it.
Yeah.
The network character. Yeah,
Yes.
it's true.
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
was. And people say sometimes you got hit with a brick. I have to be hit with a cinder block. I'm sorry. That's the way it was because I just went one direction until somebody changed it or something
Exactly.
changed.
Yeah. And along the way, we're going to have a lot of people that pivot it this way, and we take that journey, and then we meet somebody else that pivots it another way. And we've just got to live
Yes.
aware, and pay attention to those people because they might just be a moment in time, but something
Yeah.
they say, something they do becomes that light bulb, becomes that different, I have a different road I can take, right?
People
So,
have done that. That was part of my
mm,
journey. And I wouldn't, people have said, if you could change something in your life, what would you do? I wouldn't change anything because I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have my spouse Scott in my life today.
yes,
I wouldn't have the people. You and I would not be sitting here
exactly.
talking about this important matter subject. It's no, I can't. This was my journey, and I have somehow navigated it well enough to be able to now help others who might be finding themselves on the same road. You know,
You've been triumphant,
I
right?
hope so.
Yes,
I believe so. And every day is a new day to start again, and that's the
exactly.
thing I said. So,
And of course, we all meet other obstacles in life and we look at
okay.
them and they look so daunting. And then we
Mhm.
take a breath and we look at it. You know what? Look what I've already accomplished. Look what I've
Exactly.
already overcome. I've
Exactly.
got this.
Yes, I can do
Right?
this.
I can do
I'm a
this.
survivor in all ways. So
Yeah,
I know how to fight and especially fight for myself, you know.
right.
So.
Well, the book can be found on Netflix, not Netflix, on Amazon,
Not
and
yet.
not
Not
yet.
yet,
You're
but
coming up. Maybe
right.
you put it
Everybody
out to the
tells me this
universe
has to
there.
be a book. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, a
So
movie.
show,
Okay.
yes.
Let's
Um,
go.
so it's on Amazon and all the other mediums there,
Barnes and Noble, yes.
and your website is
It,
angelfinallyfoundhiswings.com.
.com. Correct.
Right. And that's the thing is that our wings are waiting for us. You know, they don't want to be suppressed and tied down.
We all have them. Yes,
We all have them. We've all, you know, they're busy fluttering at the back there and we're
that
ignoring
is
them.
right.
And they're saying, let me free,
Waiting to
let me
take
free,
flight.
let me take you away from this, right? Or let me
Yep.
show you another path or another pasture to go
That's
to. So
exactly right.
pay attention to those wings and also those wings that are always around us because
Oh yeah.
they're there to show us the way. Pay attention. You
Yes.
nobody who's being victimized asked for it.
That's
Nobody deserves it,
100%.
no matter what is told you. You are not less than. You are being victimized, but it's up to you if you choose to still be a victim or whether you choose to triumph over that
Right.
victimization and become somebody who you want to be on your own terms.
Right. And it has to happen on your time too.
Mm,
You know, you
yeah.
can't be pushed into it. You can't be made to have to face it. You have to be ready for that because
Like
you're going to take deep
if
turns.
you met Todd some years earlier, you probably wouldn't have made the same connection. So you
Oh,
met him,
Scott, not yeah.
Scott.
Scott
Sorry,
and
how
I
do
would
I keep
never
saying
have
Todd?
survived.
Sorry,
That's okay.
but it's if that's the thing, everything comes at the right time. It's for us to pay attention to the time, you know,
Right.
and that realize, oh, why didn't you come earlier in my life? Because I wasn't ready. Right. And
Right.
the
100.
synchronicity of that perfect time and that perfect moment, you're here now.
And I can't. And what you're saying is true. Had I wouldn't have had Scott had I met him earlier. And
Yeah.
the people that did try and come into my life during my uh, healing time period, when I was trying to find out and validate myself as a person and worthy of having a relationship,
Hmm.
suffered because of it because I didn't know how.
Yeah,
I
exactly. What
couldn't
did you
do
have
it.
to
I don't
basis to go on? Where was
know.
the love? Where
Yeah.
was the
So
love in your
I
life?
had to learn those things,
Yeah.
and it's Scott was my reward for
Yeah.
all the hard work, and that's how
Yeah.
I have to look at it too. I deserve to have somebody like him in my life, as they will deserve to have whoever their person is in their life.
Yes.
You know, and they have to believe that. And I finally believed I was worthy,
Hmm.
and that gave me the biggest smile in my life because I never thought I was
Yeah.
until then.
Yeah.
So
I
I
always
wouldn't
say
change a
we
thing.
have to be the love we seek because when
Absolutely.
we are the love we seek, the frequency matches that love of someone.
Yes.
But we've
Yes.
got to be the peace, we've got to be the love, we've got to be the self-value because
Right.
that is what's received. So don't go looking for someone to complete you, but
Oh
rather
yes, you're
somebody
correct.
to complement you.
Compliment. Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful discussion with you. And again, thank you for having me on your show
My
and
pleasure.
letting me talk about my story. Angel finally found his wings. Um,
It's an important one, and this is the reason why it's under the genre Their Story Matters, because it does
that
matter.
would
Oh, there
be
it
it
is.
right there. Angel finally found his wings. Th-
Excellent. Excellent.
Thank you so
And
much.
it will go under, I have, you know, sexual exploitation shows where I put all of the shows underneath that. So it will go under that as well, because I think this needs to be out there. And, you know, kudos to you for choosing the path that you've done and being the inspiration that you are today. There are many people that are still living in the shame and they're not willing
Yes,
to talk about it. And, you know, family members against them. And it's at some point, it doesn't matter whether it's family, whether it's friends, if they can't support you on your journey
there
of
you go.
releasing your pain, then how loving and how much do you need them in your life, right? Just
Right,
because you're
right,
blood doesn't mean that you have to be, right?
right.
So, I mean,
And
any of your family members have a reaction to the book?
oh yes, I've had the most wonderful support from my family. One or
Excellent.
two who have some issues, but that's their issue. That's not
That's
mine.
them. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have the people in my life who love me and who support me, and I'm blessed for that. And that's what I'm hoping others will find that. Believe it or not, it's there. We just have to be aware of it and open to receiving it.
Open to receiving it, definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing today and the courage and the journey that you've taken. It is so important. And it just shows it doesn't matter what happens to us, it's what we make of it that really counts,
100%. That's
right?
right.
And that we can all survive even the most
Yes.
horrific things. Not just survive, thrive, you know, because
Thrive is exactly.
the things that you've learned to survive through that is
That's right.
something that you take into everything else. And then where some people panic over something, you can go look at it and go, ah, that's nothing.
Mhm.
Right? So it's
Surviving is not
strictly
the end all. Yeah,
right.
surviving is not
No,
the goal. That's the part that you get to so that you can move and thrive from there.
yeah.
Have a wonderful life. Live.
Yes, live. Yes, most certainly. So thank you so much, everybody. Get the book, talk about it, talk about the show. I'm always encouraging people to have podcast parties, listen to the podcast, take notes, and then share the notes. Start the
That's wonderful.
conversation. Don't let it stop
Yeah.
here. Talk about it. There's somebody you know that's gone through this in some form or other, and you've chosen not to see it, or you don't know how to approach it, or you don't know what to do. This is the thing of being aware, because when you're aware, you care. And when we see each other, we're there to support each other. And we're also there to hold accountable to the people that are the victimizers. Let us
Yes.
not let them get away with it by us
Yes.
turning the other cheek. Let us
Correct.
stand up for the victims that have no voice. So thank you so much, Ron. And to everyone else out there, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.